This month we're going to talk about workplace violence. Workplace violence is any physical assault, threatening behavior, or verbal abuse occurring in the workplace setting. And when I say workplace, that could be any location, either permanent or temporary, where an employee is performing any kind of work-related duty. And workplace is going to include any of our buildings and the surrounding areas like parking lots, outbuildings. It could also be field locations or work sites, and it can be traveling in the vehicle to and from those assignments. And when you say workplace violence, most people are going to think about the nightly news covering another shooting. Well, workplace violence involves more than just the incidents that make the news. Only about 82% of those reported workplace violence incidents are going to involve a weapon. Workplace violence includes active shooter, assault, battery, bullying, harassment, intimidation, and threats. So what is considered workplace violence? Well, attempting to cause physical harm like striking, pushing, and other aggressive physical acts against another person, or it could be verbal threats to inflict bodily harm. Workplace violence is not part of the job. Most workplace violence incidents can be broken up into four main types: criminal intent, customer-client, worker-on-worker, and personal relationship. Let's talk about the different types a little more in detail. So type 1 is criminal intent, and that's when an individual has no legitimate relationship to the workplace and the primary motive is theft. This happens when someone enters the workplace, and remember we talked about workplaces being job sites, vehicles, and not just the utility itself. And they try to commit a robbery or other criminal act, and that incident turns violent. And also acts of terrorism fall under this category. Type 2 is customer-client, and those incidents involved a violent person that has a legitimate relationship with the business or an employee. It can happen when an individual is the recipient of a service provided by the workplace. So this could be at a job site, or it could be an angry customer coming up to the utility itself. Type 3 is worker-to-worker. In most cases, worker-to-worker incidents are committed by current or former employees, and the motivating factor is often personal or work-related conflicts. It can consist of threats or attacks between employees in the workplace. Type 4 is personal relationships. So a personal relationship incident is going to involve someone who usually does not have a direct relationship with the workplace itself, but it's typically going to have a personal relationship with an employee. Violence and threats can be by employees, and that could be a current employee or a former employee. It could be a disgruntled employee or former employee seeking revenge, a rejected job applicant, and also coworkers with escalating personal issues. It could also come from known third parties, and this could be an employee's spouse, partner, relative, stalker going to a workplace with bad intentions. It could be a client, customer, vendor, or contractor with or without specific prior threat. And it could be a member of the public that feels they have not been treated fairly. It could also come from strangers, and this could be any random person with criminal intent like robbery or assault. It could be anyone with an irrational connection to you or North Little Rock Wastewater. You could be working in a bad neighborhood and just get caught in the crossfire of something else going on that you have no connection to. And it could also be a random target from an unknown person. Factors that may increase the risk of violence at workplaces include working with the public, working alone or in an isolated area, providing services like a utility worker, working late at night or early morning hours, working in areas with high crime rates. So who's at risk? Well, everyone is at risk. Workplace violence can happen anywhere to anyone, and nearly 2 million American workers report having been victims of workplace violence each year. Unfortunately, many more cases go unreported. How can you prevent or reduce workplace violence? We should evaluate your work site to pinpoint areas where an incident is more likely to occur. And you can do this by being cautious in secluded areas, park vehicles in a well-lit area if it's dark outside, away from large trees or shrubs where a person could hide. Check surroundings when getting out of the vehicle, and if you feel unsafe, don't get out of the vehicle. Watch for signals of possible danger, like verbally express anger and frustration, threatening gestures, signs of drug or alcohol use, and the presence of weapons. You want to avoid traveling alone or into unfamiliar places if possible. You want to stay alert and know your surroundings. If you're working away from the vehicle, keep equipment, supplies, and personal belongings locked out of sight. Maintain behavior that helps to diffuse anger by presenting a calm, caring attitude, not matching threats, not giving orders, and acknowledging the person's feelings. You also want to avoid behaviors that may be interpreted as aggressive, like moving rapidly, getting too close, touching unnecessarily, and speaking loudly. You want to trust your judgment and avoid situations that do not feel right. If you feel threatened, leave immediately and report the problem to your supervisor. Carry only minimal money and required identification into community settings. Respect others at work. Belittling, harassing, spreading rumors, or playing tricks on coworkers could make you a target for violent payback. Never ignore a coworker's threat to harm others. Report any suspicious behavior to your supervisor. If you have any questions or comments, I'll try to answer them. You can stop by the lab building or you can call me at extension 104.